Hi, I'm Deanna Kizis, and I'm hosting the Psoriatic Arthritis Club, a new podcast from CreakyJoints and the Global Healthy Living Foundation. It's about the ups and downs of managing PSA, which, for the uninitiated, is an abbreviation for psoriatic arthritis. So before we get started, I have a confession to make. Even though I was diagnosed with PSA more than 2 years ago, I've barely talked to anyone else who has it. That's weird, right? Especially when you consider that I'm an author and a journalist, and I've literally interviewed hundreds of people over the years. I don't know exactly why I haven't sought out other PSA patients, but I suspect I've been in a little bit of denial about having this disease. But you know what? It's time. I need help and I need support, and I'm pretty sure that if you're listening to this, you do too. In this podcast, I'll be talking to other people with PSA about what they've been through and how they're coping. We're going to talk about things like what's working, what isn't, and I'll be sharing insights and perspectives from top rheumatologists. Look, I'm not giving out medical advice here. I'm not a doctor. I'm a patient just like you. But I'm going to share what it's really like to live with a condition that most people have barely heard of, let alone truly understand. I mean, when I found out that I had PSA, I barely had a basic grasp of what it was. I didn't know how debilitating it could be, or how much it could affect me beyond the pain that seemed to come out of nowhere, or the psoriasis on my skin. I didn't know about the brain fog. I didn't know about the fatigue. I didn't know about the medications and the treatments. Seriously, I had no idea. And it turns out that we have a lot to deal with. That's where this podcast comes in. I'm learning that having a support system is one of the most important things you need after you're diagnosed. None of us has all the answers. PSA is complicated and it affects everyone so differently, but my hope is that we can talk it out and learn from each other. So let's get going. For today's show, I spoke with Lauren Scholl, a working mom from the suburbs of Chicago. Her story really resonates with me for so many reasons, including that we're both managing PSA while parenting young children. What I found with my daughter, we've come up with kind of a system for that 4 o'clock, just fatigue, where we call it quiet time. And she brings her book or her coloring pages or whatever it is on the bed with me and lets me sleep and just get super cozy.
That's so sweet. I wish my 2 little boys would give me some quiet time. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Lauren is 33 years old, married, and a mom of 2 boys aged 5 and 7. Meanwhile, my daughter is 8. By the way, Lauren is also a personal trainer, which is something we definitely do not have in common. Tell me how your diagnosis came about. Did you start with symptoms? What were they?
I was diagnosed about 4.5 years ago, and I was convinced that I injured myself working out. It got to the point where I really couldn't walk. I was a former professional dancer, instructor, competitive dancing, which was hard on my feet. And so I had noticed my pain often happened mostly in my toes. And so when I got to the point where I could not walk, I went to see a podiatrist who saw extensive arthritic patterns in my joints. And then he noticed that I also had psoriasis patches on my knees and on my ankles. And he asked if that had been a thing. I said, oh yeah, I've had it for 7 years, 8 years. And he was the one who sent me to a rheumatologist, to explore things further, because he did say it does look like this could be a psoriatic arthritis type diagnosis, but I'm not a rheumatologist. So that's how I got here.
Oh, I totally get it. My symptoms also started actually in my foot, and the top of my foot just would, like, this tiny part of my foot would swell up. It was the most bizarre looking thing, and I couldn't wear normal shoes anymore. I had to run around in flip-flops, and thank God I don't live in Chicago, or that would have been a nightmare. So you can get away with that for a really long time.
Yeah.
So how did you react when you got this diagnosis? I mean, most people don't even know what it is. I didn't.
It was tough for me because of the lifestyle that I live. I was afraid. What does this mean for my training? What does it mean for day to day? Does this mean it's never going to get better?
So your job is to be a trainer. How has that affected your life?
It's hard because my job is bending over and picking up weights and demoing exercises and things like a reverse lunge where you have to step back and really bend the toes. I mean, there are days where I can't do it. I can't demo that for someone. So I have to use my words. I've tried to learn ways to work around it. I've changed my training style, and I feel like as a personal trainer, I can't just tell people to work out, right? Like I have to live the lifestyle that I preach. I've talked to my doctor on multiple occasions. She said that exercise has been recommended to help fight the fatigue and help keep people moving. So finding that balance for me has been a really key piece to living with psoriatic arthritis, because that activity I found to be something that I need to keep me going. However, if I am flaring, it is hard, and I have to really listen to my body and know what I can handle.
Can you walk me through just when you went to your doctor, how it went? You walk in there, you go to your rheumatologist, they give you your diagnosis, and did they put you on a medication? How did that work out? Because some people have to kind of, try different things before something works.
We tried multiple biologics and just couldn't get my inflammation markers to come down. I was still flaring at least 1 to 2 times every month, where I would be on a steroid pack or something like that just to try to help with that inflammation.
What kind of symptoms do you have? What is going on?
So recently I've been having flare-ups in my hands, which is kind of new for me. My hands have not been the most affected. I noticed that if I go to a doctor's appointment, I can't get through filling out an intake form. By mid-page, my hands are just tired and not working, and then can't grip my pen right. I've had really bad swelling within my knuckles. I was back there this week because the swelling came back and my hands wouldn't open and close again. So we went through the ultrasounds and the blood work, and it looks like they're probably going to have to change me to something that will hopefully work a little bit better.
What do you have to say about talking to your doctor? Has that been something that you've been able to communicate with your doctor easily, or did you have to work to really reporting your symptoms?
The first rheumatologist that I saw, I don't feel like she had this sympathy towards, or empathy. I don't think she felt the pain. There were days where I'd go in there on crutches because I couldn't walk. And she's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we could do for you. You tried the steroids and I'm like, I can't walk. I could barely drive here. When it got to a point where my pain was so bad, I went on Facebook, because that's the place you go for everything. Sure. And I asked my friends, does anybody know a rheumatologist? And so someone referred me to the rheumatologist that I see now. She is phenomenal and very easy to talk to.
Well, you've found the right doctor, and I personally feel like that is half the struggle.
So when I talk to my doctor, my rheumatologist, about medications, I feel like she really listens to me. I'll tell her kind of how I feel on the medication, and she hears me, and she's ready to pivot and try the next thing. And she just assures me that with every medication that we have tried, that we're learning a little something new, so we can kind of continue to move on. And she just has assured me that we are definitely not at the end of the road here, that there are lots of opportunities to find something else that will work.
Even though Lauren is clearly struggling, as I am, to find a treatment plan that works, I found it reassuring to hear how she connects with her doctor and how they work together. Because for me, finding the right doctor has been a journey. For more on how to communicate better with your doctor, I talked to Dr. Eric Ruderman, a rheumatologist at Northwestern University in Chicago.
It's important to tell me what's important to you. What do you want to get better? What are the things about your disease that need to get better? What are the things you want to do that you can't do? I mean, that's the functional aspect, so that we can sort of make sure we cover that. And then when we think about treatments, what are the side effects that worry you the most, that may not be the most likely, or maybe not even be the most worrisome, but for you might be a big issue, and it may have to do with somebody else in your family who had a problem with one thing or another, or some particular, side effect from a medicine you had years ago that was just a big issue for you. So, what are the concerns that you have, so that I take that into account as we start to think about medicines and walk through the options.
Okay, so speaking of getting better, I also wanted to learn more about a term I heard recently, which is minimal disease activity, or MDA. To be honest, I wasn't exactly sure what it was, so Dr. Ruderman explained it.
It's the idea that, whatever treatment we choose should take all the different aspects of disease, whether it's your skin, your joints, your tendons, your nails, whatever it is that's active, and control all of them. That's the idea, that if we just fix one thing, we really haven't solved everything. And so the idea is to come up with a treatment plan that may be one medication, maybe several different things if that's what we have to do. that really controls all of the aspects of what's going on. It's really, in an ideal place, we would have all of the different things that go into psoriatic arthritis well controlled so you don't really know that you have them.
I hesitated to ask Lauren about minimal disease activity because she's struggling with her symptoms. But her answer shed light on this whole other aspect of what it's like to live with PSA. I guess for me, when I think of minimal disease activity, it means that I would have all of my markers would go down, or all of my symptoms would go down to a more manageable level. What do you think life would look like for you?
So I have not been there yet. I have hope that I will one day. I know that for me, my psoriasis on my skin has never cleared up. However, it also hasn't been my main concern. To me, if I feel great, that's what's going to keep, my first and foremost priority. But as a whole, we just haven't quite gotten to that place yet where well-rounded I could say that minimal disease activity is happening. But I'm hopeful. I think that as we continue to truck down this path, I would love a few months of MDA sounds really great to me. The way I'm thinking of it is how would would my personality change? Would it change me to be a happier person? I try to consider myself a pretty happy person as it is. I'm really grateful for all the things that I have that have helped me along this journey. My parents have been extremely helpful with my kids. My husband's been so hands-on and supportive and helps take loads off of me. But I feel like it would make me feel a little bit more independent, the confidence in myself that I would feel to be able to do things a lot of frustration gets built up inside of me because I feel like I should be able to do these things. And I think that I would have, more so than being pain-free, the energy to really enjoy and be in the moment with my family and really run around with the kids at the park and enjoy that, not wonder when it's going to end. You know what I mean?
I do.
I think that's probably the biggest life changer would be able to be in the moment and enjoy it and live it.
There are times when I'm going through my day and I do this thing in my head. It's like a conversation I have with myself, and it's just next thing. Get through unpacking the groceries. Okay, you did it. Next thing. You got to do the dishes. Okay, next thing. Having to have that mindset, I find, is exhausting.
Yeah. To be honest, I feel like I get through the day-to-day. I go through those motions, and I get things done the way that I would if I was any typical 33-year-old. But where it affects me psychologically and, mental health, again, it's that confidence. It's the inner joy, being present, and confidence. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, I do know. And I know for me that I had to really go through a learning curve with my daughter because for a long time, I actually didn't want her to know that there was anything wrong with me. And so I tried to hide it. And she, I think, actually just started to get concerned. So what do you do with your kids? Because we can't really hide this from them. Or maybe you're doing a better job than I did.
So my situation's a little bit different than yours. My 7-year-old was actually diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis this past year. So we've had a lot of discussions. It was a really hard year for him. And it did open the door for us to really start talking about it. I'm able to now say to him, when your feet really hurt, Owen, or when your knees are really bad, that's how mommy feels right now. Mm-hmm. And so he really relates and understands. And my little one, Carter, is 100% a mama's boy, and he just wants to take care of me. And to be honest, I try not to let my pain or the fatigue take away from the kids, because I feel like at 5 and 7, all you want to be doing is exploring and running around. What I find is that if I push through it and I'm let's go on a walk or let's be active or let's go play, at the end of the day, my feet are pulsating. I'm in bed at 7:30, feet up, and it feels like I'm walking on bruises. And it's your kids, right? There's nothing you wouldn't do for them. There are days where I do that and I fight through that. And they'll never know that, or maybe they will way later on down the road.
Yeah, I really get it. It's such a fine balance because I know for me that it's kind of like gas brake for me, because when I push through it, which I do all the time, but there comes a point where I know I have to stop because I'm going to just be worse the next day and worse the next day. I get so upset when I make it to a point where then getting out of bed is hard. But I think as a mom, like, I really have to think about what I'm capable of and also asking for help. This is a hard question. This runs in your family, so for you, this is like a family disease. And is it both or one of your sons who've been diagnosed?
So far, just one of my sons. However, my youngest does have psoriasis, so we're keeping a very close eye on him as well.
How are you coping with that?
Not well. It's been hard to think about knowing the pain that you're in and then having you see your child in that pain, or thinking that like your kid is feeling the same pain that you feel is like gut wrenching. However, I feel blessed in a way of knowing that I can help them through it because I've been there and I can relate and I understand and I know I can advocate for them for schools and things along those lines for the accommodations that he needs at school.
What I love is that what I was thinking when you were talking is that they're really lucky to have you as a mom, because having a mom who can be empathetic, who can prepare, who can find the information, who can advocate, that's a really special thing. But I can imagine that it's really, really tough.
It's scary for me to think about the long road that they have ahead of them too. My grandfather had rheumatoid. My dad has autoimmune issues as well. On my dad's side of the family, it's just heavy in their genetics. So I definitely saw my grandfather deteriorate with rheumatoid arthritis. He was a physical therapist. He had to stop working. He had to stop golfing. He had to stop doing the things that he really loved. So thinking about taking those things away from me is really hard. Even if it's down the road, I'd love to see myself, you see on YouTube those like 98-year-old women that are still like teaching Zumba classes or whatever it might be.
You know what I want to know is, I have a couple of questions about, first of all, you're young. You've got obviously friends in your life, other people in your life. How are they aware that you have psoriatic arthritis? How did you explain that to them? Because I find it really hard. People think I have just like maybe like granny sore hands or something. And I'm like, no, honestly, it's worse, but I don't want to sound super complainy either. So I struggle with how to talk to people about it.
Yeah, it's been hard for me. I have like one very close friend that totally gets it. She has been amazing and understanding. What's hard is that as a mom, I'm meeting all of these new moms at the kids' schools, and it's kind of been like, oh, let's go on this walk. This group of moms is going to the beach and they're going to go on, or they're doing this run, right? And you're a personal trainer. You'd be really good at that. So it's hard. It's a struggle for me because I don't want to be like, oh, hi, I'm Lauren. I'm the one that has psoriatic arthritis. I'm constantly tired and I really hurt all the time.
Right.
The last thing you want to be is like that whiny person and like that's new to like the moms group. And
totally.
So with my close friends, my family gets it. I'm lucky because it's heavy in our family. So like they really understand. My best friend gets it. She's been there for me to take my kids when I've had bad days. But new people, I hide it. It's not something I talk about unless it would come up in conversation. And I'll be honest, I try to fight through it and keep up with them because I want to, it's the stuff that I want to do.
I understand that. And by the way, no offense to grannies. I'll be a granny someday, so I will have granny hands. So one thing I want to do in this podcast is get as much advice as possible from other people with psoriatic arthritis. I need all the help and good ideas I can get, and I want you to get them too. So here's Lauren's advice.
My biggest piece of advice would be to listen to your body. When you feel like something's not right or you feel that you're hurting, take the time to rest when you need to. Don't wait for it to get worse, to ask for help, to talk to your rheumatologist and let them know what you're feeling or to track it. Something that I had to really kind of develop a new understanding for. What does it mean to know my body, to know what I can handle, to know what I need when I'm in pain, to know when it's time to call the doctor, getting to know those signs, and just, again, surrounding yourself with the people that are going to support you, that are going to try to understand if they can't physically understand, but try to understand what you're going through, and advocate for yourself the way that I advocate for my kids or the way that you ask for help with the doctor. Those are probably the best pieces of advice that I could give.
That's amazing. Lauren, you are so inspiring. Thank you so much. It's been so great to talk to you.
It was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me. And you're inspiring too. I've been hearing your stories and stuff. It has been great.
I hope you're as inspired by my conversation with Lauren as I was. She's dealing with so many moving parts as a young mom with a chronic illness. I mean, she has kids who have a chronic illness, and she's a personal trainer. But I love her ingenuity and spirit and her willingness to do what it takes to make things work. Anyone out there who's parenting with this disease knows it's a lot. So it was really helpful for me to hear what another mom is going through. We can't give up, right? We have to be there for our kids if we have them, and our loved ones in general. That's why I think it's so important to keep working and pushing forward to try to feel better. It's not easy. We got to dig deep, but I think we're worth it. That's it for the Psoriatic Arthritis Club. Thanks for listening.
This podcast was made possible with support from AbbVie. For more support and stories from other PSA patients like you, subscribe to the Psoriatic Arthritis Club or visit psoriaticarthritisclub.org. You can also visit CreakyJoints.org for the latest information and news about living better with PSA.